Hello, hello. This is cybersecurity expert Reginald Andre with Arc Solvers. Thank you so much for watching. Today, we are going to be talking about how hackers are coming after your employees. Back in 2002, I used to work for a store called CompUSA, which is very similar to what is called Geek Squad now. They sold a lot of electronic equipment. And I was part of management. And I can recall one of my trainings where the person that was presenting the training says that 7 out of 10 thefts that were happening in the store were internal. That could mean that an employee was straight out just stealing something. It could also mean that maybe the display case was left open accidentally by the employee, and then somebody else would come into the store and steal it. I even remember this one incident where the employee was a computer technician. It was a computer repair store as well. And his friend would bring in a computer for a repair or an upgrade. Then they would take in that computer, and the his friend, which is the technician working at the store, would take the computer in. Everything is legit, and when he would open up the computer, he would then actually take items from the store, open the packages, and just put everything in the computer. So that way, when his friend, the accomplice, would then come and pick up the computer, it would just go right through the door, because who's going to open up a computer to see if there's anything stolen? So there's so many different creative ways of what bad guys do to steal. And now hackers are actually coming after employees, coming after your employees. This just happened. It was just released with Tesla 2 weeks ago, where the FBI has been investigating where the Tesla employee was being targeted and wanting to pay this employee $1 million for access. So let me back up now. This particular case is now on the dark web, where there's actually job postings for people. And if you meet the certain criteria by having your company that you work for in the USA, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and as long as you're not in healthcare or government entities, and you have some other revenue criteria, hackers are going to now pay your disgruntled employee to give access. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give you a quick rundown of how they're actually doing this. So the first thing that they do is the hackers will either post this on the dark web, or they would actually via LinkedIn, via WhatsApp, they're going to find out what employees are there. And then from there, they're going to try to develop a friendship with that employee by just commenting on their LinkedIn post, or just going on WhatsApp, figuring out what their cell phone number is, which is very, very easy to do nowadays, and say, hey, look, would you be interested in making some extra money? And as the conversation continues and that trust becomes there between the employee and the bad guy, they didn't tell the employee what to do. I'm going to send you an email on your personal email. I want you to go ahead and click on it. Don't worry, this malware that we're going to be putting in your computer, it's one step ahead of the antivirus that you're using, because you're telling me what antivirus is being used at this corporation. Or they may even tell the employee, what we want you to do is we want you to download this file, but then disconnect it from the internet, and we want you to run it. Because a lot of the tools that a lot of IT people use heavily rely on the internet to do real-time, less than a second scams. So there's different methods that the hackers use, but essentially what the hackers are trying to do is to, instead of trying to break in through the front door, they're trying to laterally move, because, as I mentioned before, it is so much easier to for a person that's already in the inside, that knows the different things that's happening in the inside, to then be able to take a flash drive, stick it into their computer, and then run the program. So we're seeing a lot of chatter on the dark web. We're seeing FBI actually now putting out bulletin alerts of specific ransomware groups that are actually saying, we are looking for people that is willing to help us this. And just to give you an idea, the example I gave you with the Tesla that happened, it was just released a few weeks ago because it's via court documents. So it became public records. But this investigation was about a year where someone in Russia reached out to a Tesla employee, befriended them, and over time said, I have this job for you. And if we are successful, you're going to either A, get a piece of the ransom, or we're going to give you a certain dollar amount. And don't worry, the FBI doesn't need to know about it because we're going to pay you in Bitcoin or some type of Coinbase, and it's not going to be traceable. And we can assure you that this malware that we install on the computer is also not going to be traceable. So there's so much of this now starting to happen where it is a concern where the FBI is now letting companies know that that they need to take action. So there's a few things on how to take action. The first thing is if you do have an employee that maybe is not a good fit, that you feel that, you know what, when we let them go, they're probably going to sabotage us. You need to let that employee go much sooner than just keep on waiting. Stop kicking the can down the road and let them go. And when you do let them go, make sure that you turn off all access. Now, speaking of access, one of the things that you should do for your business, and it's very easy, is called conditional access. One of the examples of an article I was reading was that the bad guy gave the employee a file. The hacker gave the employee a file to stick into the computer. And when they stuck that USB drive into the computer, it automatically scanned all of the files on the laptop, and it scanned information that they had on their file, their file share, and it would scan for anything on the cloud. So for example, if you have SharePoint, OneDrive, Dropbox, Ignite, this USB flash drive, it was programmed that it would then scan for all of that information, grab it, kind of like a copy, and then paste it onto an external server. So this is why it's so important that you should have monitoring tools on your systems so that if an employee is always used to maybe, let's just say, working on files, copying files, let's just say half a gig or even a gigabyte of information a day, and all of a sudden their computer is showing that this employee is now uploading 20 gigs of data, that is a red flag. And you need to have those type of monitoring, and you need to have those type of logs that you can go back afterwards to kind of investigate to see where did you have this data leak and who was it. So like I said, this is something that's big, which is why I wanted to let our audience know. And there's many different ways that you can prevent these type of things, but it is so important now to, unfortunately, you now have to look at your employees. And of course, you always want to trust your employees, but it is something where going forward, if employee doesn't need access to a file, if they don't need access to a folder, don't give it to them. Because even if you did have that disgruntled employee and you had systems in place, so that way, even if they release that information to a hacker, at least it's only a few folders, at least it's only the information that they have access to. But there's a lot of other companies where you can just have one big, S drive for the shared folder, and marketing is in there, HR is in there, accounting is in there, and any employee can see whatever they want. It's a free for all. It's just an open book. That's where you want to be careful, because if you have that type of system in place and you do have that disgruntled employee, then you just gave the hackers everything, as opposed to just giving them access to whatever that employee should have seen. So that's all we have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below, and I'll definitely be able to answer it. And please like and subscribe our page if you haven't already. Take care.